Yeah.
So how it is possible that there is a true creator of this whole universe, there will be the chaos.
Yeah.
If I say there is a true prime minister, there will be the chaos in this country, in your China as well. If I say true prime minister, there will be the chaos. Understand? So if there is true, Allah said it, if there is true creator, there will be the chaos. Understand? So there has to be one creator. Make sense? Yeah.
And this creator is not the creation. What we see, because often in the Eastern religion, Eastern philosophies, they have the idea that everything is God or part of God. The idea of pantheism or panentheism, the idea is like, this variations of this, like everything is God, we're part of God. But if you think about it, all we see here, everything that you observe, they share certain essential characteristics or properties. They share something that is dependent, finite, and limited. Think about the tree, or think about yourself. You are dependent. You're dependent on air, oxygen, water, food for you to live. So is the tree. They're dependent. So all of the things that we see in our universe, it's not just this. Everything is dependent. So it doesn't make sense to say this is part of God, because what we mean by God is something that is everything depends on. Everything must depend on something ultimately which is independent. Because if we have a set, because I know you're a very intelligent person, if you're a set of dependent things, it doesn't eventually make it independent, the whole set. Because they will still be dependent. So we cannot explain the existence of dependent things within our cosmos, within our universe, unless they depend on something that is independent. So these things we say they're contingent on something that is not contingent, not contingent. So that is the thing. What we're saying is a necessary being. It's a necessary existence which everything else depends on. So that thing, that necessary being, shares certain qualities or characteristics or properties. One of them is independence, self-sufficiency, where this necessary being is not dependent on anything else, but everything else has to be. Because you have to have in science we look for explanation. Explanation. All our universe and everything that is within it, this can be explained by a necessary being. That is the explanation of all things. That necessary being has to be independent. Otherwise, as he explained, will also have the same problem of dependency, and you will say, what does that necessary being depend on? Something else. And what does that something else depend on? And you will go on ad infinitum. This will be a problem of infinite regress, where you're trying to establish these causes for our universe, and they infinitely go beyond. And we know that if there was infinite causes, explanation, another explanation, another explanation, if it went like this infinitely with no end, our universe will not come to an existence. And he gave an example about a library and borrowing books. So what it is, forget about library. This is a bottle, right? I want to give this bottle to you, right? This is an action to take place. But suppose between you and me there are infinite number of people that this bottle has to go through first. So he has to go through him first, and then to her, an infinite number of people before it comes to you. Would this bottle ever come to you? If there are infinite number of people? Never. Because there's someone always there in front of you. And it will go on and on infinity, and it will never come to you. But if the bottle came to you, what that demonstrates is the people that it went around was not infinite, finite. Because it reached your hand. If it was infinite, it would never reach your hand. But because it reached your hand, that means the chain is finite. If our universe had causes, who had cause, who had a cause, who had a cause, infinite number, our universe will never be here. never come into existence.
Okay.
The fact that we are here, this cause of our universe is not infinite.
Okay.
At the end, there is one cause which doesn't have any cause.
I agree with you.
Yes?
One cause doesn't have any cause.
Right,
Yeah,
uncaused.
Yeah.
That uncaused is the
Yes.
necessary being.
Yes.
And that necessary being,
Everything is cause actually. Yes.
at the end,
Yes.
that cause is the cause for everything, right?
Yes.
That cause, what we call is the necessary being, what we call the originator, the creator for everything.
Yes.
And this creator, originator, must have power or energy, must have self-awareness or self-existence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will not be here. Nothing will happen.
Yeah.
Without power, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
But there's something else. Must have will or a choice.
Yeah.
Choice, a will to make this universe.
Yeah.
You see, to make this bottle, you can't just have plastics in a factory and you expect the bottle to form like this. Because design has gone through this making with a bottle with a lid and all these ridges, right? It requires intelligence and will, choice. Somebody programmed the machines to make it in the factory to make it. They had a choice.
Yes.
The necessary being also has a choice.
Yeah.
So this necessary being is not like nature, which has no choice.
Yeah.
Nature has no self-awareness. Nature has no consciousness. So that originator is self-aware, has power and energy, and has a will. And this universe demonstrates that this necessary being, the originator, must also possess what we call intelligence or wisdom or knowledge.
Okay.
Because to make this world with all this precision, with all this complex harmony, this assembly that we see, the laws of gravity, the constants that we see, physical constants in our universe, must come from someone who has knowledge. So even if we were to reason like this, then you know there is a creator, has to be one.
Okay.
This uncaused cause has to be one, only one. And has to be perfect in the attributes, not deficient. Because if this has knowledge or power, it's not going to be limited. Because that necessary being must exist by itself. To explain this universe, there has to be an existence of this necessary being always. Always. Because if you think there was at one point there was nothing, then there will be nothing here. The fact that we are here something, there has to be always something, and that something is our necessary being, the originator, the creator. So he always exists. If you always exist, then you exist with your qualities, because no one gave you the quality. No one gave the quality to the necessary being. Because he exists without a beginning. Always existing means exist without a beginning. So if he exists without a beginning and has will and power and energy and knowledge, and there will be no limit. Then there will be no restriction. There will be no deficiency. So that's why we say this being will be absolute. In contrast to something which is dependent, finite and limited, it will be the opposite, absolute. Absolutely all powerful, absolutely all knowledgeable, absolutely all of the attributes will be perfect in their attributes. This is what we say the attributes of God is. This is when we say God, we are describing a being like that who deserves our gratitude, our thanks. To give you an example, if we went there on the road and we have an accident, I'm run under by a bus, whatever. You take me to the hospital, and I wake up a few days later, and I realize you have saved me by giving your blood and your kidney. Should I not be grateful to you? Should I not say at least thank you? It's not that you wanted it, you did it because you are kind. You're someone who is compassionate, merciful. So my natural response should be one of gratitude. That's why we call being grateful. If someone does something you a favor, does all these things, you saved my life, I should say thank you. Our originator deserves our thanks,
Oh, okay, yeah.
deserves our gratitude.
Yeah.
Because not only our originator created us,
Yeah.
brought us in this life,
Okay.
but also gave us means to sustain our life. The food, the water, the air, the oxygen.
Yeah.
God gave us all of that.
Okay.
That's why we say He is called God, meaning one who deserves our worship. Worship is a term that encompasses, in essence, being grateful.
Okay.
So when this creator, originator says, I created you for this reason, we would say, okay, I will follow that reason.
Okay.
Because He's the one who gave me life. He's the one who brought me into this existence. So why should I not follow Him and be obedient to Him? That is what it means to be an obedient worshipper of our God. Some people automatically have this feeling about, oh, why do you call Him God? God is just to describe that He is a being worthy of our worship, and worship encompasses thanks, glory, gratitude, and so on.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is not unreasonable to be thankful to our Creator, to be grateful to our Creator.
Yeah.
I should be being so grateful to save when He saved my life
yeah.
by giving me blood and a kidney and so on. This is what I should do. We should do likewise for our Creator, who has given us all of this. He's given us 2 kidneys and lungs and heart and all that thing. We should be thankful.
Okay.
It's not something that He was obliged to do. He gave all of that because He's merciful,
Oh, yeah.
because He's kind.
Yeah.
So that's why we should be grateful and show our gratitude.
Yeah.
So when God sends a prophet and a messenger to tell us about Him, we examine this message, we look at this message, and then we say, yeah, it tells us to be good. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
We should be good.
Yeah.
It tells us to be kind to others.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
We should be kind to the others.
Yeah.
It tells us to be just. So now we realize our Creator, when He tells us to do something, it is for our own good.
Yeah.
When our Creator tells us to don't kill, don't oppress, don't murder, don't rape, don't steal, don't cheat.
Yeah, don't rule.
We know all of these are good qualities that we should be doing in the first place.
Yes.
So these regulations that comes from our Creator, it's for our own good.
Yeah.
For our own good. So that we can live a life which is beneficial, which is purposeful, which gives us comfort, joy, and contentment. And not only that, it tells us what awaits for us when we die. Because some people think they live this life and that's it. You die and you go to a grave or whatever happens to you and the worm comes and eats you and that's the end of it. But is this why we have been created so much in our way different from all the other creation? Do you see any other creation, any other animals, plants, fungi? Do you see them going to space with their technology? They don't have that technology. We seem to be the one who are mastering technology where we're even trying to go and land on the planet Mars, for example. So human beings have this extra quality of where not only we have the will and the capacity to understand and differentiate between things, good and bad, right and wrong, but we can also understand our purpose in life. When we realize we are created in such a way, then this is not going to be something like you might say, oh, we are created with no purpose. Look, your whole body, think about this, your whole body, starting from your hands. The hands are designed in such a way for a purpose, so you can grab things, It has a purpose.
Yes.
Your eyes have been purpose to see.
Yeah, to see your nose.
Nose, every single part of your body has a specific purpose.
Yes.
Put yourself together.
Yeah.
What is your purpose? Ask an atheist. They haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
But you should understand and you should accept that it's reasonable to say, if every single part of my body has a purpose and a function, and not decided by me. Did I decide my eyes to see? Did you decide your eyes is only to see? Did you decide it? No. It was decided already in your genetic code by the one who has created you and assembled you all this information. So you did not choose the purpose and the function of your eyes or your ears or your heart or your lungs. You didn't do that. I didn't do that. So that means if I put myself together, my purpose together as a whole body is not something that I can decide what my function is. It has to be the one who created me and put me together, the one who gave me all of that. And that's why we say it's the necessary being, the originator, the creator, God that we're talking about. He has the right to tell us what our purpose is. In fact, he's in a better position, the best position to tell us what our purpose is, and not any other human being. Yeah? So that's why we're saying the purpose of our creation, our creator told us, is to worship him. Yeah?
Maybe the purpose to surrounding everything is creator, yes.
To listen to him, to follow our creator. That's what it means to worship our creator, to acknowledge him, and to be subservient to his laws and regulations. Because whatever God gives us is for our own benefit. The examples I've given you, when God says be just, it doesn't in any way make him a bigger God or a greater God just because he says be just. It is for our own good, so that we can live in harmony in the societies. We can live in peace. We can live in tolerance. So when God says, don't be greedy, he says don't gamble. Do you know why? Do you know why God says don't gamble? Because what does gambling do? It makes you lazy. It wants you to be waiting there. Sometime money will come you by chance.
Sorry. I want to ask why is gamble in the world?
Why is gamble prohibited or not allowed in the legislations of God? Is this gambling is an actions where you are taking like as a chance to earn a lot of money at one go without doing any work. So it will make you lazy. In fact, it will be miserable at one point because you don't have any guarantee that you can win in gambling every single time. In fact, you might lose all your money and you'll be on the streets. And that's what we see people. And it becomes so addictive that you can't do anything like that. That's why look at the people who gamble. So gambling is not something that a decent, responsible human being should do. Why? Because it doesn't make them a responsible human being. So when I go and work, I know I'm working hard, and at the end of the day, I know that I'm going to get some wages or salaries. Gambling is not like that. It's like easy money, easy come, and easy go. One day you have all this money, and one day you have nothing, and you might even commit suicide because of that, right? That's what people do. So when Islam says do not drink alcohol, stay away from it, there is a reason. Because we know, even though there might be some benefits of drinking alcohol, like social benefits, people gather together and they have some fun, but the harm outweighs the benefit. The people who end up in our accident and emergency department in the hospital, the majority of the cases are due to alcohol consumption. In UK, in London,
maybe in the whole world.
Maybe the whole world. We know because people are drunk, they go and start a fight at home and they beat their spouses. Domestic violence, one of the main cause is alcoholism, alcohol consumption and so on. So even though there may be some benefits and so on, because of the greater harm in society, God says stay away from it. But you can have any other fruit juices. You can have apple juice, orange juice, mandarin juice, whatever you like. Something that doesn't befog you. So what alcohol, the reason why it's prohibited, alcohol is a substance which befogs your mind. It impairs your mental judgment, your decision making. That is why we are not allowed to drive while you're drunk. Do you know what happens when you drink and drive? Because your judgment, that the speed and the distance and the next car and so on will be impaired, and you might create accidents, killing yourself and killing others. That's what alcohol does to the brain. That is why God tells us not to drink or eat certain food or substances like that for our own benefit. So now you realize when we have a guidance from God, this guidance is for our own benefit. That is why we should look for that guidance, verify it, and follow it. It's best for us. When the earlier Muslims, we're talking about 1,400 years ago, when they read the Quran, it revolutionized their life and the society. They became the pioneers of science, technology, and progress. If it wasn't for Islam and the Quran, Europe would still be in the dark ages. People in Europe will still be having a bath maybe once a month. In fact, when the Queen of England had a bath once a month, we had underground sewage system in Islamic Spain, in Cordoba, and so on and so forth. Because Islam was implemented and they had science developed, technology developed. It didn't stop people from just being, oh, you believe in God and that's it. No. They had overground lighting system. If you think about England at that time, people were wearing clothes like and sewages. The Lord of Bath sent his son to go to the Islamic civilized lands to learn about it. In fact, you know Charles Darwin, the one came up with the idea of evolution? He had to study Arabic language under his teacher, Samuel Lee. Because science and technology and knowledge all was that in the Islamic civilization. But now what's happened is Muslims are becoming so lazy, and that's why people don't see the power, the spirit, the contribution that Muslims have done to the society, to the world. We don't see it today. You might see it isolated cases. Many of the Muslim countries are so backwards. Do you go to a Muslim country to do your PhDs? People come here in this country, or they go to other countries, because Muslims themselves have abandoned the pursuit of knowledge and technology as it demanded by Islam. Muslims were naming the stars.
I'm not familiar with others.
What I'm saying is, if you talk about astronomy, geometry, trigonometry, algebra, physics, astrophysics, all of this science, disciplines of science, Muslims contributed to such an extent that this is a gratitude to the Islamic civilization. The problem is, Europe had a problem with Islamic civilization, because when it came, people were becoming Muslims and leaving Christianity. It didn't like that. There was always this resistance to Islam, theological resistance, political resistance, and then ideological resistance. That is why even today in the textbook of science and history, they do not talk about the Islamic civilization for hundreds of years. In fact, if I were to tell you a medical textbook to be a doctor and a surgeon, Al-Qanun fi at-Tib, the canon of medicine by Ibn Sina, known as Avicenna, or Ibn Sina, went through 700 years as a medical textbook in Europe. Over 17 editions. Many of that is still relevant today. But this is coming from the Muslim civilization, Islamic civilization. That is the power and the level of contribution that Islam had on the world science, technology, and civilization and progress. You don't see it today because Muslims have become lazy. That's the only difference. But when Islam came, it told them to go and search and go and look into how God created this universe, how God originated this universe. So not only the world benefited from Islam, if it wasn't for Islam, the world wouldn't be like this. So the Renaissance that you heard about, the scientific revolution, it only happened because of the exchange of Islamic civilization. People don't acknowledge that yet with this resistance, but the more and more people read about it, the more and more realize that it was the case. Many books on algebra or trigonometry were found. No, it wasn't like this. Let me rephrase again. This discipline, say trigonometry or algebra, I can't remember which one. Two people independently come and say, this is what it is, from two different places. We know that's not possible. The only way we can explain that, they got this from somewhere else. And we know when Genghis Khan or others came and looted the libraries in Iraq and elsewhere and destroyed so many books, some of the books survived. And these books ended up in private hands, institutions and so on, and they started learning it and they say, oh, I'm coming up with all this, when this knowledge was already contributed by the Muslims. Yeah? So we know that because you can go now, you see, is it William Harvey or someone who's been credited for the circulation system? Or someone's credited for the father of the medicine and so on. But you can go back and see Ibn Nafis, who already described the circulatory system. People now realize how the technological advancements the Muslim had. The point I'm making is this: if you consider Islam, it is not going to somehow make you backward. It is not going to take you to the old Middle Ages. Islam will enlighten you and you will free up, and it will bring you up an alignment in your heart and your mind. And you'll realize that that is indeed the truth. Because when we want to know what the truth is, the truth must be self-evident. Self-evident. You don't have to really, dig the world to find out what the truth is about this universe, about God, about Islam. When you study the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you would know that he is the messenger of God. Your heart, your mind will say, he has to be. He has to be. A man who has been oppressed, his whole family, his whole community were almost killed, and they were left to migrate to another place. When he came back, he could have destroyed them all, right? Because of what they did to him. But what did he do? He forgave them. Who can do that? Only a person who's been trained by God to be such a compassionate individual. So when you look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you look at his generosity, his kindness, his forgiveness, his teachings of tolerance, justice and fairness, you would know that this is not ordinary human being. He has been trained by the Creator to be a messenger of God. That is what, when you look at the biography of the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you look at the Quran and you open and you read, you would know this book is not a product of a human mind. Because human minds are limited in what they say, what they know, what they do, right? We are limited. If this book was 1,400 years ago, what would you expect in this book? Errors, mistakes, discrepancies, inconsistencies. You would expect that. Because this book, if it was a product of a human or a group of human beings, they will reflect the knowledge of that time. If they talked about science, we know how science was back then. They will inevitably make scientific mistakes. If it describes about this universe, how this universe is, it will make mistakes. But how is the Quran saying, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ? There is this star, bright, piercing star, which emits sounds like a hammer, knocking, knock, 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 knock. How would someone know that? 1,000... Huh?
You believe it?
How would someone know there are pulsating stars which make sounds like this, which you cannot know unless you have that technology? Only today in this century, we have come to know there are stars, we call them pulsars, pulsating stars, which emits this knocking sound. Knock, 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 like that. And the Quran describes there are bright piercing stars, which is like a tariq, hammering sound. Impossible for someone to know 1400 years ago. This is one example I'm giving you how the Quran gives us information. It tells us, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. God, the Creator, tells us in this book, we shall show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until they know that this is the truth. Because the book has to tell you and convince you it's from God, right? Otherwise, you might pick a Harry Potter and say, this is from God. Quran convinces people when they read and investigate it that it has to be from our originator, our God. Because otherwise, people can fall into the prey of worshipping and following anyone and anything, right? People can follow any book and think it's from God.
And give you peace. Peace that comes from God.
So any book which is from God must provide evidence for its divine origin. The Quran says this is a book. لا يأتون بمثله. No one can imitate it. No one can bring anything like it. For the 1440 something years has passed, no one is able to bring a chapter like the Quran. Why is it so impossible? Shakespeare can be imitated, Beethoven can be imitated, but the Quran cannot be imitated in the style, in the linguistics, in the stylistics. So this is a hallmark, a seal from God that this is from Him. So that in your heart you know it's from God. That you know you're not being conned or deceived. That you're not being someone fooled. That you know that yes, when you use your mind and your heart and your critical thinking, you investigate, you explore, you know that this book indeed is from God. Then you will have the contentment and the peace in your heart to follow this book. You know, yes, I can surely follow this book of what it says to me, and I know what's going to happen to me because it describes me what's going to happen when I die. That it's not going to be the worms that will come and eat me only and that's it. There will be another life. God will recreate us again with another life. Some people used to think, even today, how can you be brought back to life again? When we are rotten, flesh and bones, how can we be brought back to life again? In the Quran, God gives us so many reasons for us to think otherwise. God says, the one who created you first time is not able to bring you back again second time? Of course. Creating first time is difficult. Doing it again is not difficult. The one who brings fire from green trees is able to bring you back. Yes. The one who created you in the womb of your mother in several stages of creation, one creation after the other in different stages, describing how you were born, and now we know that's the case, He will create you again second time. He says, look at this. You think He can't bring you back? He says, بَلَا قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُسَوِّيَ بَنَانَا. He's able to bring you back even to the tips of your fingers. What's so special about it? What's so special about the tip of our fingers? Unique.
Yeah.
Mine is different than yours. That's why in forensic science, we use fingerprintings as an evidence. Yeah? If I find the fingerprintings of some individuals in the crime scene, murder and the knife or whatever, we say this is the individual that's done it. Because his fingerprint is not going to match yours or mine. Okay. God is telling us He will bring back as unique as we are, resurrected again. Yeah? He's able to do so. Not only that, He says, look how He brings from the barren, dry land. Have you ever been to a land which is totally dry? The earth is split dry. And then a season of rain comes and sprouts all these plants and herbs and trees from nowhere. Dead land, and you can see life coming forth. So God is saying, even though you're dead, He will resurrect you again. Not only that, it's not impossible, it's easy for Him. Okay. And not only is easy, this is demanded by justice. Okay. Aren't there people who live this life and they kill people, they murder people, they commit genocide, ethnic cleansing, horrible things, and they live like a king and they die like a king? Where is justice? They get away with it. They die and they get away with it. Where was justice done? Justice is not done. So justice itself demands that there must be a day of judgment in which all of us are recreated and we will then account and be responsible for all our actions and all our belief. We stand in front of God and God will judge us fairly and justly. So anyone who's done something wrong, the Quran says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ
مثقال ذرة
خيرا يرى ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يرى. Whoever has done an atom weight of good, a weight of mustard seed, a good, you will see it. If you have done something bad, even to the weight of a mustard seed or an atom, you will see it. Meaning, He will take account of every action you do. If you found a money bag, purse, with a lot of money, and then you took it and used yourself, you will have to account for it. It wasn't yours to begin with. Did you wait and find out, and did you ask, oh, has anyone lost this money, this book? Or did you just founders keepers, like they say? You will be accountable for every single penny. So Islam is such a system of justice and fairness that you realize that even if I were to pick a thorn, an obstacle from the road so that people don't get hurt, that is a good action and God will reward us. Even if I were to smile at my brother, how are you? That becomes part of worship. Because my brother may be suffering for something, whatever, and by me smiling at him, it has given him comfort. So all of these actions, this is a good actions, and we are going to be rewarded. Anything that we do, good or bad, we will see it. So Islam considers this life in which we live our life as a test. That is the distinction between every other people. They think you just live your life and that you die, that's it. No, we live our life as a test and we will be judged for everything that we do. And if we are successful in following God in the best of our capacity, believing in Him and doing God's works, like as I said, be nice, be kind, be just, and so on.
Should be
right?
love, yeah.
Then the reward is there in the Day of Judgment. We will be in a place of eternal happiness, joy, bliss, tranquility, comfort, contentment. You know, sometimes you feel so much comfort and contentment. This place is the eternal bliss. But those who become arrogant, those who are stubborn, knowing the truth and they don't want to follow God and to thank and be grateful to God, and they become a rebel against God and they don't acknowledge Him and associate partners with God, they will be in a place of torment, punishment, suffering. And I'm telling you, it is such a suffering that even you would not even your enemy to go there. Such an evil torment and suffering. Quran says, in fact, when the people are thrown into the hellfire because of their arrogant disbelief, and as soon as often as a skin is roasted and burnt, do you know what happens? God gives them fresh skin so that they can feel the chastisement, the punishment, the pain. God is giving a threat about an impending punishment for people not to go to hellfire, but He's also already establishing proof for His threat. Do you know how He does that? What happens when we burn? You have several degree burns. First degree burn, second degree burn, third degree burn. You know about that. When we burn, you can have a little bit of burn and you still feel so much pain, right? If you burn with so much heat, you can put a needle through and you won't feel any pain. Do you know why? Does anyone know why?
Nerves on the skin.
Because the pain receptor, the nerves, they're all destroyed. They're underneath the skin.
Okay.
The receptors for pain, pressure, touch, they're underneath your skin. Pain receptors underneath your skin. When you burn the skin in totality, there is no pain receptor. So even if you were to cut your hands, you won't feel any pain. Look what God says. As often as the skin is burned, He puts them on fresh skin. Why? Fresh pain receptors. Fresh nerves. So that they can feel the pain. So some people may be clever and thought, you know what? When I go to hellfire and I'm burnt initially, I would not be feeling any pain anymore. I'll be happy, I'll be okay. No, God doesn't give them the chance. Just know, if you really think you're clever, I will be recreating the skin fresh again, so you will constantly feel the punishment. But don't make yourself go to hellfire. God constantly tells us, avoid going to hellfire. Don't follow the footstep of Satan. Someone who tells you to do all the bad things. Worship a potato or a man or a woman. Worship other than God. Do things, murder, kill, whatever. Associate partners with God. There are people who are whispered to do all of these things. God says, no, stop following this path. This is a path of destruction. But follow the path of the prophets and the messengers who came to tell you how to live your life and to be successful in this life and successful in the hereafter. That is the life the Quran describes to us, that how we can live our life. So a Muslim, the one who lived this life of Islam, you can be sure that this person is not going to lie to you. That's what a Muslim means. Someone who practices no lying, no cheating. If a Muslim lies, what happens to your Islam at that point? God says don't lie. The Prophet of God, Muhammad ﷺ, says don't lie. That is the teaching that should be embodied by the one who follows this religion. So if a practitioner of Islam, you would know that this person is not going to oppress me, is not going to cheat me, is not going to commit any injustice to me, is going to be sincere, is going to be kind, grateful, is going to be pleasant to work with, is going to be someone who's going to be always fair and always just, someone who's not going to, with his greed, loot my wealth. He's not going to do that. Instead, he's the one who's going to offer me the support and the help that I need. We are required by God's divine law, if we have a certain amount of wealth, 2.5% of our surplus wealth, we are obliged, mandatory on us, to give it to the poor. It's their right. We can't look down on the poor. It is they have a right on our wealth. Imagine that. The poor people have a right on our wealth. It's like their money. If I have enough money, they have a right, we have to give it to them. When Islam was implemented, during the 5th Caliph, Abdul Aziz, he was trying to find people to give this charity to. He couldn't find people. That's how it is. He cannot find people to give this zakat charity to. Why? Because everyone was well off. Because of the Islamic economic system, in which we don't just hoard wealth, we distribute. We don't just do gamble, and we don't do interest and usury, where we totally enslave not individual communities but whole nation. Look how many nations are enslaved by this usury and interest system. The banks, they give you loan, give you £1,000 or £50,000, and how much do you have to give in return?
15.9%.
So much more. Just think about it. If I am in need, say something happened to the roof of my house, I need to rebuild it. I need money, but I don't have it. I go to you, my friend. I need some money. Either you give it to me, or can you lend me some money? If you are a kind person, you would say, no, okay, there is this money that we need. Give me the money back again after a certain time, once a time. You would not say, okay, here is £10,000, but give me £20,000. What would that say? You are greedy. You are not only greedy, you are an opportunist. Not only you're an opportunist, you are victimizing a vulnerable individual who is in need. You have been doing what we call exploitation of my need. You're exploiting my vulnerability, and you're making money and profit. When your kindness and generosity should be that you say, you know what, £10,000, give me £10,000, 2 months, 3 months back later. I don't have that need for this money now. I have enough money. That's the kindness and generosity it should be. But look at the banking systems. They're all like that. So Islam says God in His Messenger has declared war, battle against usury and interest, because it dehumanizes people. People is dehumanized. They are such that they become so greedy and exploit. They become greedy and so, exploiting in their nature that it's not that they're not even decent human beings anymore, right? So Islam brings about a system in which people can still be human beings with empathy and sympathy, kindness and generosity. Yeah, that is the teaching. That is the teaching of Islam, where your heart and your mind would say, that makes sense. That is something that I would like to follow, because that is the most ideal way of following our life, living our life. That is the standard that we should uphold. The standard of living should be a standard in which you don't look down upon people or a community. Do you know what the Quran says about race, ethnicity? The Quran says, God created human beings in different languages and colors, in communities, so that we can recognize each other. Not that we despise of each other, so that we can لتعارفوا, so that we can recognize each other. And I will explain what this means in a second. And the most honorable, إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم, the most honorable, most best person among you is not the one who is most wealthiest. It's not the one who is white or black or Chinese or Pakistani or Indonesians, whatever. It's not the one who is beautiful. The most honorable individual in the sight of God is the one who is pious, God conscious, the one who is righteous. So the distinction between our races, because you know what, I am from a higher race called the Aryans. No such thing in Islam. No such thing as a superior race called the Arabs and the non-Arabs. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you know what he said in the last sermon? He says, hear this clearly. There is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab. An Arab is no superior, no greater, no better than a non-Arab. And likewise, a black person is not greater, superior, better than a white person. And so is a white person not better, greater than a black person. So the distinction between black and white, the rich and poor, all dissolves around it. Islam doesn't just teach that, it demonstrates that in practice. Do you know how it does that? 5 times a day we pray. Muslim men go to a mosque. Do you know what we do in the mosque? We stand side by side. He may be the king or the president. I may be a cleaner of the streets. He may be an emperor or whatever. He may be so rich. All of us stand in one line, shoulder to shoulder, with making no difference between us, praying to God, saying we are all equal in the sight of God. Not only that, the greatest gathering on earth is called the Hajj, pilgrimage. That is going to be in about what? 2 weeks? Do you know what you will see? You will see a practical demonstrations how the unity and brotherhood or the sisterhood of humanity, where every human being, every male, for example, will wear 2 pieces of clothes, not sewn together, stitches. 2 pieces of clothes, he will wear the same, I will wear the same. He may be the king of Saudi Arabia. Because of security reasons, he might have guards, but technically I can stand in front, next to him, side by side, and pray to God. Same clothes, nothing else. 2 pieces of clothes on our body, making sure that we don't demonstrate any kind of distinction and differentiation between who we are in the eyes of God. That is a practical demonstration of the unity and brotherhood, that we don't look down upon someone because, oh, where are you from, brother? Saudi Arabia. I'm not from Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to put him down in any way, shape or form, neither can he. The moment I know he's a Muslim and he knows I'm a Muslim, guess how we feel, brothers in faith. I can go to his house and go anywhere, I can dine with him, sit with him. He feels the same. Because that's how the unity of brotherhood Islam inculcates, Islam puts in between people. That is the standard of humanity in which humans should live. Yeah? Human beings should live a life where this kind of understanding is present between people. So remember I asked you about how God created in different languages and colors and so on, right? This is a sign and a mercy from God. Many people don't realize this, how it's a sign. Let me give you an example. Imagine every single male person was as handsome like you, and every single woman was as beautiful as you. Same shape, same weight, same complexity, same color. Everyone's the same. In fact, what's your name? Ahmed. Ahmed looks like you. You know twins, right? Yeah. Like twins. He looks like you. What's your name, brother? Nas looks like you. What's your name? Sam looks like you. Every human male looks like you. Would you be able to distinguish who's who? We wouldn't recognize who's who. People have so much difficulty in recognizing even twins, right? Twins.
Yeah.
But if every human being, male, looked like you the same, handsome, smart, kind, generous, these are external qualities, but physical qualities, you would not be able to recognize anyone else. And if it was the case with a woman, for example, every woman looked like this lady here, you would not be able to recognize her. Because Samantha, Aisha, you know, whatever, Deborah, what's your name? Everyone would look like you. We wouldn't know who is who. The fact that we are different is so that لِتَعَارَفُوا, so we can recognize each other. That's why what's your name?
Ling.
I know you're Ling.
Yeah.
And you're Ahmed. Because of the physical characteristics. But I'm not putting you down in any way, shape or form. Just because you come from China and he comes from where from? Syria. Yeah? So this is a mercy from God. This is a blessing from God that we are different like this. But our differences does not guarantee us or give us the right to discriminate anyone wrongly. Anyone who discriminates on the basis of language and color and so on, God says no, you can't do that. The only discrimination that you can do, not you, God does, is who is the most righteous, pious, God conscious. Atqaakum, Quran says. So does that make sense to you? So far we've discussed about the reasons and the rationality of the Islamic faith, some of the teaching of Islam, some of the practical demonstration of what it means to be a Muslim, some of the reasons why we accept God, some of the reasons and some of the arguments why we know for certain God exists and God is one, some of the reasons and arguments why we know that God gives us guidance so that it's better for us. Does this make sense to you? So I would ask you to ask yourself, why and what is stopping you from accepting this beautiful way of life called Islam? Being a practitioner of this way, by calling yourself a Muslim, by submitting to your Creator. Ask yourself, what is stopping you? We invite you, we would like to, as Muslims, all of us, like to invite you wholeheartedly to Islam. Become a Muslim, so that you are successful not only in this life, but in the hereafter. You will be saved from the punishment of the hellfire, and you will be granted in place of paradise in eternal joy and happiness. This is our humble request, that you think deeply and you reflect sincerely with critical thinking what we have said, and then make your informed choice and says, yes, I want to be a Muslim. This is a choice that's between you and your Creator you have to make. If you're in any way you feel that yes, we can help you to make that journey to become a Muslim, you're more than welcome. So tell us, what is else that you need for you to be convinced? What else do you need to have that security, contentment, and that what we call conviction in your heart that Islam is true? We will try all our best to convey this message to you as best as we can. And if we have made any mistakes in our conveying to you, we apologize and we seek your forgiveness. What we are doing is trying to just share this message of Islam to you so that you, both of you, can make that decision yourself. So that ultimately you can say that I have submitted and surrendered to God willingly and sincerely. Isn't that what Islam means, Muslim means? Islam is a state of submission, willingly and sincerely. Not by force. I cannot force my brother and say become a Muslim, because you cannot make someone believe in their heart by force. It has to be internal conviction by choice. Yeah. So ask yourself, my friend. What was your name again? Ling. Ask yourself, what's your name? Ask yourself. You may have been brought in a particular family who practice certain religions in the East or here. But when we have the mind and the intellect, and we can use our critical thinking, that we know that we are not just particle of dust floating around. We know that there is a Creator, and we know that our Creator deserves our worship. And we know, as we have described, the Quran demonstrates it is from our Creator. Ask yourself, what is stopping you from becoming a Muslim? Or how can we help you to become a Muslim? Do you have questions? Because we may be born in a family which becomes an obstacle. We may be in a particular geographical region which may become an obstacle. Like, how can I become a Muslim because Muslim means like an Arab religion? It's not. Do I look like an Arab? I'm not an Arab. Well, my brother is. But I have accepted Islam.
Where are you from?
I'm from Bangladesh.
Okay.
But I have accepted Islam. Even though I was born in a Muslim family, now I would want to accept Islam by willing choice. And that's what we do. We constantly renew our faith every day by submitting and surrendering to Allah, by making that sincere, informed declaration, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. We make that declaration every day. How many times a day? Many times a day. We mean it because we understand it. We are convinced of it. So this is what you have to take that journey yourself. That journey you can only take yourself. If in any way we can help you with that journey, we are more than willing to help you. So I don't want to put you on the spot like I'm not someone who will ask you, become a Muslim now, but I'm going to ask you this. If it all makes sense, ask yourself, why would you not accept Islam to be your way of life, to be the one who will worship God, to be successful in the hereafter, to save yourself from the hellfire? Our parents are not going to help us in the hereafter. Because if our parents worship other than God, they themselves are in need of help. If our parents did not worship God and follow His commands and avoided His prohibitions, if our society, if our community didn't do that, they are in need of help. So don't rely on like our parents, our forefathers, our communities, our friends. They can help you. They need help themselves. We have to help ourselves to safeguard and to have that security to be safe from hellfire ourselves. Our own self. We have to make that choice. We have to make that. And don't delay it. Because do you know when we're going to die? Does anyone know for sure when you're going to die? You don't. We can die the next minute. I can fall dead the next minute. No guarantee. People die when they're young, when they're babies. We have no guarantee. In Islam, we believe life and death is fixed. We have to fulfill our purpose of life within this time frame. If we delay it too longer to the point where death is approaching us, and then we say, now we believe, it will be not accepted. Because when someone is coerced, because you know now the truth, because the angel of death is coming to take your soul away, that is not going to be acceptable. You failed your purpose. You failed your tests. So we have to submit ourselves to God before death comes to us. And death can come to us anytime. So do reflect on what we say, what we have said so far. And Ling and Pal or Pat? Pal? Ask this question to yourself. Ask yourself, what is stopping me from becoming a Muslim? What am I losing? Friends? Family? Job? You are gaining paradise and you're losing hellfire. Man zuhziha anin nar wa udkhila al-jannah faqad faz. Whosoever has saved themselves from the hellfire and entered paradise, they have attained success. That's the Quranic message. So, what we are afraid of? You afraid of losing your family and friends and so on and so forth? You are gaining paradise and saving yourself from hellfire. That is the ultimate success. The ultimate success is not getting your PhD. The ultimate success is to be saved from the hellfire. And hellfire is no joke. The fire that burns, the fuel or fuel? I can't pronounce it properly. The fuel, right? The fuel is man and stones. Back in the early days, people may have not appreciated how can stones be a fuel for fire. Now we know even certain stones, they can produce so much heat Don't people cook with stones? Now they do. When they go in camping now, you can heat up the stones and they can cook over it because the fire stays longer and stronger. So the hellfire, the fuel of the hellfire is human beings and stones. Can you imagine that? Human beings will provide the fuel for hellfire. May God save us. May God save those people from this hellfire, every one of us. But if people are arrogant and stubborn, they make their own destiny. They make their own destiny. They make their own consequence. We can only say, don't do that. Because that destiny is such a destiny which is, you do not want even your enemies to go there. Have you ever burnt accidentally? Touching the fire and you did that. It was so painful. Hellfire is much hotter and stronger than this. We don't want to be. When the drinks hot boiling water and pus is given when they're thirsty, that's the drink will be given and it will burn their throats. No recourse, no comfort in hellfire. It's not what some people think, you know what, all the celebrities, all the wealthiest and the richest, the wicked people are going to hellfire, I'll be with them, we'll be happy. No, there is no happiness in hellfire. There is no joy in hellfire. There's constant suffering. There is something called the tree of Zaqqum. It's so bitter that when you eat of it, your stomach will burst. We don't want to have this kind of food or the drinks in hellfire. We don't want to be in a place which is constant fire burning us. Paradise, on the other hand, you will be reclining on couches. There will be rivers underneath the gardens that you'll have. Whatever you wish, it will come to you. You want some food, comes to you, just like that. You eat, you don't feel any constipation, or you don't feel there's any diarrhea. You will not feel any hunger, because you're eating only for joy and pleasure. When you want to drink, you drink, and you don't need to even go to the toilets to urinate. There will be no defecation and urination. When you drink, drinks, God describes in the Quran like wine, but that wine is not going to befog your mind. It is a purified wine that will be pleasant to drink, but it will not befog your mind. So all that is there in paradise, in heaven, is joy, is pleasure. You'll have pleasure, company of your spouse, company of your friends, and not only this, the most utmost pleasure that you can have is seeing your God who created you. The people in hellfire would not have the vision of God, of the Creator. Do we not want to know who this God is, who is always in existence, who is always there with all this power and might and knowledge? I want to know this God. You will see and have, on that day, you will see this God. إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. The faces will be bright on that day. How does the ayah go? Yeah. On that day, the faces will be bright by looking at their Lord. So we will have this countenance of God in paradise. That is the ultimate reward that you can have. Ultimate reward. Just imagine, whatever you want is there in paradise. So this paradise, to go there, there's only one thing we have to do. In this life, fulfill our purpose that we're created for. There are people who have been told this and they will still disobey God. And they will be so arrogant and they reject God and not fulfill that. Who is to blame? God, who constantly reminds them, don't do that, but be good, follow the commands, avoid the prohibitions, and still they do that. That stubbornness and arrogance is the one that they will then say, this is our making. We don't want anyone to be there. We want to save ourselves from the hellfire. So this is a copy of the Quran in English language, a gift from us.
Okay, thank you.
Read. And a brief guide to Islam and a concept of God to Islam. What we said, do reflect. And if you are willing to accept Islam and say, now I want to become a Muslim, go ahead. If you want to take some time, also fine.
Okay, so thank you for your information today. Thank you.
Okay? So is speaking to you both.
Thank you.
We just hope that you continue your journey of discovery of Islam, the truth of Islam, and when you find it, take it.
Okay.
Accept it. Is that?
Thank you for your information.
Thank you. Take care, and may God help you in this journey. Okay. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
جزاك الله خير.
بارك الله فيك.